I wanted to be a lumberjack, leaping from tree to tree as I float down the shores of British Columbia. The larch, the giant redwood, the smell of fresh cut timber, the crash of mighty trees. With my best girl by my side, we'd sing, sing, sing. Good morning, everyone. This is Stone Gasman, live from New York City. And this morning, we are going to be doing an audio commentary for the 1971 film, And Now for Something Completely Different, which was the film debut of the Monty Python Sextet, the famous Monty Python group from England, who has been with us for about 52 years now. They did 45 episodes of a show called Flying Circus from 1969 to 1974. And it was in 1970 when somebody came forward with a check for £80,000, for £80,000, excuse me. This film was super low budget. £80,000. And what we have is basically an 88-minute sketch movie. That's the thing. This is not really a movie. This is more of basically a... It's like watching 3 or 4 episodes of Monty Python's Flying Circus strung together, although they did refilm a lot of this stuff for the movie, quote-unquote movie. And they even had to resort to not even afford effects that they had used on the television show for these same skits. But at any rate, I am paused on the Columbia Pictures Lady for And Now for Something Completely Different. Now, and before I press play, I want to say that, yes, I am well aware that this is 1971. It was released in the United Kingdom in 1971, and throughout this month in September, I am going to be doing the international movies of 1972. For instance, The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, The Canterbury Tales from Italy, Solaris from Soviet Russia. You know, those films like that. I mean, the big international movies of 1972, I will be doing all throughout the month of September. And I decided to start with the United Kingdom. And I thought, well, why not start with a Now for Something Completely Different, the very first Monty Python movie, to kick off this month of international films. And technically, yes, this is a 1971 film because it came out in September of 1971 in the United Kingdom. However, it came out August 22nd, 1972 here in the United States. Now, nobody really saw it. Everybody here had no clue who Monty Python was. And so, people stayed away from it. But, and it wasn't until after close to Holy Grail coming out that where Columbia Pictures did a re-release in 1974. And that's when people in America really started to discover the great Monty Python troupe. So at any rate, let's go ahead and get started. I am paused at the Columbia Picture logo for And Now for Something Completely Different. And we will start on 3, 2, 1, and play. I adore the Columbia Pictures lady logo from this period. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, Her Majesty's Government Public Service Films, How Not to Be Seen. So automatically, we start with one of the most famous sketches from Flying Circus, one of the most popular, which is essentially How Not to Be Seen. And yeah, I mean, basically, I mean, they're pointing out a bunch of people that should not be seen because they're going to be shot, but they show themselves anyway and they get shot. And it's a pretty funny opening, and I think it's a more than appropriate way to start this movie, quote unquote. Like I said, it's not really a movie, and I'm going to try not to repeat that over and over again. But like I said, this is an odd duck. This is a real odd duck in the history of cinema. I mean, even some of its own creators don't think much of this product and have even dismissed it. I mean, it's just, I think it was yeah, two members of the whole troupe that said, "Oh no, this is just a bunch of gags of guys behind desks." You know, a lot of people sitting behind desks and just talking. And look, the thing is that that's a very valid complaint, particularly uh, from the creative minds that actually created all this. Uh, it's, I mean, so it's a very valid complaint. But even more than that, I mean, the truth of the matter is, well, look, I mean, if you really want to watch pure Monty Python, prime Monty Python, just watch Flying Circus. What's the point of watching this 88-minute set of sketches? Well, look, I'm going to make an argument for this film in its favor. In that, look, uh, if you're not a Monty Python fan and you want to introduce people to the crazy world of Monty Python, most people would go with Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's the most popular, it's the most well known, it's considered one of the great comedies of all time. Uh, I mean, you know, perfectly understandable excuse. I mean, they showed it in my high school, for God's sake. You know, I mean, everybody knows what Holy Grail is pretty much. This movie, however, is pretty much unknown for the most part, even though, here again, nobody saw it in 1972 when it came out. I've always loved this. The Playboy Productions logo based on the MGM logo. Kettle Drum Production. Now, we're going to talk about the guy that wrote the check for the 80,000 quid to have this made under the most lowest of budgets. But we'll talk about him a bit later because this guy right here, Victor Lowndes, this guy is a character. But look, the point is we're supposed to enjoy Terry Gilliam's wonderful, wonderful, colorful animation. I'm not the biggest fan of animation, but Terry Gilliam's Monty Python's, yeah, and the movie's over. Now, I'm sure, you know, Americans in 1972 sitting in the theater were like, what the fuck is this? Which is completely fair. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, because most Americans find British humor very dry, completely understandable. Um, but can you imagine like a rando group? You know, they just want to go out and into a comedy, and they thought, oh, how about we see this weird British thing? You know, it just came out at the cinema around the corner, and you know, you got to think, you know, Flying Circus hadn't played in America yet. But just imagine going to the theater in 1972 and actually watching this and thinking, what the fuck are these guys? But the thing is that I've seen this movie a couple times now. I originally got it with Holy Grail because Columbia Pictures likes to put these things in packages now. But the thing is that I'm actually okay with this movie. I mean, I'm very much a Monty Python fan. Although, to be honest, I haven't seen an episode of Flying Circus in years, probably about 20 years. And my introduction to Monty Python, this is actually a pretty cool story. But my introduction to Monty Python was at a New Year's Eve party. I was 13 years old. I was 13 years old, and I was at a New Year's Eve party. And somebody procured, I mean, this was supposed to be like a church group. I mean, like a non-denominational, you know, church outfit. And, you know, a bunch of us were basically having a New Year's Eve party. Well, they went out and got a couple of quote unquote adult movies so that we could watch after midnight. And what did we end up watching? We watched the 1974 Kung Fu comedy Black Belt Jones, starring Jim Kelly and Gloria Hendry, and directed by Robert Klaus, who also did Enter the Dragon. This is a completely nuts blaxploitation kung fu movie that is actually very funny. I haven't seen it since, but seeing it that New Year's Eve for a 13-year-old, that was quite. Now you'll see here London, 1971. The majority of this film was shot in the late 1970, and it came out in England, like I said, in September of 1971, and United States in August of 72. But yeah, if you were living in England, this would be, of course, be very timely in terms of, okay, we're in 1971, and so this is already establishing that we're in the present day. Now, okay, now I'll talk about all the actors in some detail, not complete detail, but some detail. But here in this scene, for instance, we have John Cleese and Terry Jones. Terry Jones, of course, became the primary director of the Monty Python films after this. But this was actually a completely different director. I mean, the director here is actually Ian McNaughton, who actually directed 41 of the 45 Flying Circus episodes. And unfortunately, he never really transitioned to making the movies with the Pythons, because by that time, Terry Jones here, who just passed away over a year ago, he basically took over as the main director of the troupe. Now, Terry Gilliam would kind of do his own thing with his animation, because very rarely do we see Terry Gilliam in this film, but he's here. I mean, you actually do see him in some bits. But the weird thing is that this was actually the debut for a lot of these Monty Python actors. I mean, the exceptions being Graham Chapman, Michael Palin, and John Cleese. They had appeared in a couple of films before this. But this was Terry Jones's first movie, and this was Terry Gilliam's first work in film as well. and here, of course, is the late Graham Chapman, best known as King Arthur in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Wonderful, wonderful king. I mean, even if it's a comedy, I still think he's actually a pretty cool king. He was the perfect choice for that role. But and here's Eric Idle, who Eric Idle, I think maybe I've seen Eric Idle in a lot of stuff, and he is almost always funny. I mean, even in small bits like the National Lampoon Vacation movies, he's funny when he appears. I just tend to laugh every single time. John Cleese, he runs hot and cold for me, but I do love Fawlty Towers, which of course is one of the great British shows. Only lasted a few episodes, but it's considered a classic now in British television. See, I mean, just this weird animation. Oh, going back to the story, yes. So part 2 of the story, the New Year's Eve story, when I discovered Monty Python, was after Black Belt Jones, we watched Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. Yes, my first Monty Python experience was not Holy Grail. It was not Life of Brian, and it wasn't, and now for something completely different. Or Live at Hollywood Bowl, which was another sketch film that was actually filmed at the Hollywood Bowl and then transferred to videotape. Technically, like this one, this is not, technically that's not really a film. I mean, there's actually 3 real Monty Python movies and 2 Odd Ducks, which are basically, sketches. And, but I do like the animation throughout, and now for something completely different. As somebody who, where animation is my least favorite genre, I think Terry Gilliam's animation is what makes this movie so worth watching. I mean, everybody's great. Everybody's funny. Everybody has a chance to shine with the comedy that they all wrote, by the way. I mean, they're all hilarious, I think. And it's hard for me to choose a favorite of the bunch, to be honest. I generally like the characters more. But here we have who is considered the 7th Monty Python member, the unofficial 7th member, who's Carol Cleveland. Now, as most aficionados know, a lot of the Monty Python crew like to dress as women. That's a part of the comedy with these guys, is that they like to dress as women. But when they need a woman for like a sketch like this, where you know, look, Eric Idle is obviously drawn to Michael Palin's wife right here, who is a knockout. And the thing is that all the guys in drag, they don't exactly elicit the same reaction. Now, would it be funnier if it was, say, Terry Jones in drag? Maybe. But, it's still lovely to see Carol Cleveland here. And there's actually two actresses that actually contribute throughout the course of this movie, one being Carol Cleveland and the other being Connie Booth, who was actually married to John Cleese at the time. But she does mostly vocal cameos, while Carol Cleveland. Like, how far can you drag the joke? Michael Palin is just, totally chipper. He's not, he doesn't see what's going on right in front of him. It's so absurd. But, hey, Carol Cleveland, I mean, gotta love Carol Cleveland. Oh yeah, so this is the marriage guidance counselor. This was from the first season, episode 2 of Flying Circus, where Palin and Carol Cleveland, both the same actors, they attend an appointment with a marriage guidance counselor, played by Eric Idle, who ignores Arthur's rather tedious explanation of their situation and openly flirts with Deidre. Yeah. And Mr. Pewty is berated by a heavenly voice who tells Arthur to pull his finger out, and thus bolsters his self-confidence. But his attempt to take command of the situation fails miserably, ultimately leading to a 16-ton weight being dropped on top of him. And I really dig the clothes at this time. Now, weirdly enough, because most people discovered Monty Python on PBS in the 1970s, because that's when they first started airing the episodes. And then Holy Grail, of course, was actually a hit not only in the UK but around the world, and it basically made Monty Python superstars at that point. Holy Grail was the film that really made them well known around the world, when before that they were primarily a British phenomenon. Are you a man or a mouse? Now, see, the weird thing is that maybe this is just a really good-looking print, but this is supposed to be a super low-budget film. I mean, you could tell the sets are not very, not very stylish, but I mean, they serve their purpose for what the comedy is supposed to be. And that's the thing, is that here again, I mean, by this time, okay, you get the idea that this is a sketch movie, and it's basically a series of skits, which, in the annals of history, has never really worked in film. Mixed bag is a term that's used by a lot of critics when it comes to quote unquote films like these, like movie 43. Now, granted, movie 43 was almost universally derided, but that's a lot of these type of films, like these short films, or and there are films like this one as well, where like they're just like 3 or 5 minute bits all strung together, and they stretch it out to like 80-90 minutes. In the 1970s was kind of rife with these horrible dirty joke movies, where they finally took advantage of like the R ratings and everything. And so they would put out movies like Jokes My Folks Never Told Me, or if you don't stop, you will go blind. Robin Williams' first film, technically, was one of those types of films, and they ended up not really giving him credit until years later after Mork and Mindy came out. I mean, that's the thing. I can't say Terry Gilliam is my favorite Monty Pythoner, but like I said, in this movie in particular, it's the animation I think that really, really stands out, even more so than any of the live action segments. It's really bizarre. But yeah, that New Year's Eve in 1993, I saw Monty Python's The Meaning of Life, and it changed my life forever. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I mean, that's the song, Every Sperm is Sacred, is now like permanently, planted in my, seeded into my brain. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. And, I wish it had won more, I wish it had won more awards. It was actually up for a BAFTA award in 1984, or 1983 rather, and it ended up losing to the song from An Officer and a Gentleman, Up Where We Belong by Joe Cocker and Jennifer Warnes. But there was a lot of push for Every Sperm is Sacred to win, and I really wish it had won. And this is somebody who adores Officer and a Gentleman and adores that song. And I did a commentary on it several months ago. But yeah, Eric Idle and Terry Jones here. Now, the weird thing is that a lot of these sketches I actually do find very funny. Some of them I think are funnier than others. I mean, and that's the thing. I do think this movie is more of a mix, not more than just a mixed bag. And I do think it has a bit more purpose than just, just a rewritten, re-stylized version of Flying Circus. Now, but the primary purpose of this movie was to sell Monty Python overseas. That was the main reason why they were making it. Now, of course, they were going to release it in England anyway. Now, if I was in England in 1971 and I paid to see this movie, the thing is, I probably would be a little pissed because it's like, well, I saw this all on television. Well, maybe you didn't see all of it on television. That's the thing. I mean, I like the variety of the sketches. I like the variety of the comedy. And here again, I think the animation segments are the real standouts here. I mean, it obviously made more money in England than it did the United States, because it wasn't until Holy Grail in 1974 when Americans really discovered Monty Python and fell in love with them. And of course, now they're considered beloved icons in the world of comedy, and rightfully so. I mean, this is, well, it's amazing that 6 guys were able to work together for so long. And here's Terry Gilliam. The weird thing is, though, is that on Wikipedia, they don't give Gilliam credit for this movie. And of course, Gilliam is one of the guys that has dismissed it as being, just a film, a bunch of jokes from guys sitting behind desks, But But yeah, I mean, it's very rare where we actually see all 6 members on screen together. Now, we will see them all on screen in a few bits a little bit later. But this is a great sketch right here called "Self-Defense Against Fresh Fruit," where a sergeant major teaches his students how to defend themselves from an attacker armed with fresh fruit. That's the joke. This sketch begins with a nun, Gilliam, dubbed by Booth, saying, "Well, I think it's overrated," in response to the previous sketch, another link that is exclusive to this film. And that's the thing. There's a lot of there is meta humor here, where they kind of wink at the audience who's been kind of maybe if they haven't been laughing at the stuff in general. Well, okay, this is just too silly. It's too silly. I like moments like that. I like little gags like that, actually, where the actors kind of jump out of the movie and, and sit next to the audience and start laughing, or just saying, yeah, we're kind of rubbish, aren't we? Even if you're not laughing. But the point of the matter is that I do think that as a whole, 88 minutes of this movie, I mean, I would say a good hour of it is funny. 50 minutes or an hour. I think a good hour of it is very, very funny. And that to me is more than enough to justify watching it, even if you've seen the sketches already on Flying Circus. But here again, I do think that this is actually an ideal way to discover Monty Python next to Holy Grail. Now, Meaning of Life, which of course is actually my favorite Monty Python movie, that is also a sketch movie, but it actually plays more like a series of short films with sketchy bits in it throughout. I mean, there's not really a main story except for the fact that they're basically going through someone's life. Essentially, if you want to pretend that it's Monty Python's life, I mean, that's essentially, we start with birth and we go to death and then live organ transplants in between, and it's all wonderful, wonderful, hilarious stuff. Now, I just like to point out that this film is displaying a distinct tendency to become too silly. Yeah, it's just. Just in case it's not working for you, we're gonna be a little bit self-deprecating here. I always love that his stripes are on his undershirts too. Yeah, it's good. It's good visual humor. Now, Graham Chapman, of course, is a very sad case because he died very young. He died in 1989. He had suffered from alcoholism for a number of years. And for many, many years, like 20, 25, 30 years, he was the only one that was not available for reunions because I think a running gag for a lot of the surviving Monty Pythoners, I think a running gag was to bring Gilliam's picture to live events and stuff like that so that at least people will be able to see him even if he's not really acting with them anymore. I mean these were basically filmed in streets in England, random streets. £80,000 this movie cost. Very, very cheap. Very cheap. So see, this is which one is this? Oh, Hell's Grannies, a documentary report about disaffected urban behavior, antisocial old ladies, and baby snatchers, men dressed as babies who seize random people off the street, and vicious gangs of keep left signs, at which point the Colonel stops the sketch for being too silly. See, this, in a weird way, this is like a Jackass movie from the 1970s. In a very, very weird way. I mean, not all the gags are physical. There's a lot of verbal humor, but still, I mean, with these little bits and pieces, like these little gags, these little scenarios thrown, and how they're wearing different costumes and touching up their hair a little bit. I love Eric Idle. I love how he looks right here. In this horrible 70s plaid suit and the very thick glasses and the longer hair. I mean, oh no. Down into the manhole. Oh wow, a British phone booth. Not many of those left. Hell's Grannies. Yeah. For a second, I thought it said trannies, but no, Hell's Grannies. Yeah, I mean, Monty Python was, considered very, very edgy for the late 1960s, early 1970s. I mean, late 60s is when essentially sex came out of the closet. although, I mean, England had already been well ahead of the game. I mean, for instance, a perfect example is that, believe it or not, a lot of American shows are actually ripoffs of UK shows. The Office being a prime example. One of my personal favorite, however, is from the 1970s. In 1972, the year this came out in America, there was a show that came out in England called Man About the House. And it was basically about a single guy in his late 20s who moves in with two girls. And the landlord, of course, is about to kick him out and say, "Oh, hell no, you're not going to be staying with two women." I mean, imagine all the orgies that are going to happen. So the girls think of a lie where he basically will pretend he's gay. And and this works, and the landlord actually lets him stay there. American audiences will know that show as Three's Company, starring John Ritter. Yes, in fact, that originated as a British sitcom. And 1972 was also the year my favorite British sitcom started, which was Are You Being Served? Which is set in this department store called Grace Brothers, not unlike Harrods or some other big outlet like there in London. And it's basically about the hapless staff and how they deal with no heat during the winter, or camping in when like they can't go home due to like weather and everything. On the female side of the where the knickers are and everything, like one woman constantly talks about her cat, but referring to her cat as her pussy. So every episode we have a joke that goes like, she says, "Oh, I must get home, or my pussy is going to go off south." Say something like that. I mean, Are You Being Served is my favorite British sitcom, and yet it's not really considered a classic in its home country. That was a show that, like I said, appeared on PBS much later in the '90s, and that's how I discovered it. And then I watched like Faulty Towers with John Cleese, and eventually, when I actually moved to England, and I was working with the Royal Air Force for about 2-3 years, that's when I discovered Little Britain, which is a very, very Monty Python-esque show, which debuted in 2003, and basically consisted of two guys, David Walliams and the other guy escapes me at the moment. But they would essentially play all the characters, and they would wear fat suits, and and they would be any kind of character you can imagine, and basically have one or two little ticks or traits that they would repeat ad nauseum. The Monty Python guys were a bit more original and varied, I think, in their humor, and of course there were more of them. So I wasn't the biggest fan of Little Britain, but and then of course you have Bean. I'm a huge Rowan Atkinson fan. I mean, Bean and Blackadder and all that good stuff. So I happen to have a funny bone for British humor. I do think that I mean, a lot of people call it dry. I don't know. I like British humor. I do find, their style very, very funny. I mean, partly because it's so different than a lot of American comedians. I mean, look at the subtle like gray that is given to Cleese's character right here in the hair and the mustache and everything. I mean, it really adds a lot. I mean, very simple makeup techniques. You can really see it right here. Yeah. So yeah, this is a Kilimanjaro expedition, also from season 1, where Eric Idle goes to John Cleese to join an expedition to Mount Kilimanjaro, but the interview rapidly descends into chaos due to Head's unusual case of double vision. And another member of the expedition, played by Graham Chapman, just trashing the office. The scene ends when Head is startled to see the next scene coming, as it presumably looks to him like a young woman with, yeah, a woman with 4 breasts. Yeah, take that, Total Recall. Oh, man, you make me wish I had 4 hands. Comedy is all about reaction, It's all about reaction. I mean, these guys, worked out some genius comedy bits. Genius. There's not a lot of comedy teams like Monty Python with this many members. I mean, that's the thing. Broken Lizard, I mean, consists of 5 guys, and they a lot of critics actually compared Broken Lizard to Monty Python when Super Troopers came out. Leonard Maltin being one of them, believe it or not. But to tell you the truth, I think the Monty Python gang are their own fishes. I mean, yeah, in a lot of their later movies, they have a fascination with fish. They write a lot of comedy around fish, and they do songs about fish and everything. And I've always liked that. I've always liked that aspect of it because, well, yeah, somebody's got to celebrate fish, so why not in Monty Python? Why not? Now, we have to talk about the director of this movie, who, of course, like I said before, directed 41 of the 44 episodes of Flying Circus. Well, his name is Ian McNaughton. And like I said, he's a Scottish actor turned television producer and director, best known for his work on the Monty Python team. Now, not only did he direct 41 of the 45 episodes of Flying Circus, he also did the 2 Monty Python German episodes. Fliegender Circus in 1971 and 72. In 1973, the production team shared the BAFTA Award for Best Light Entertainment Program for Monty Python's Flying Circus. Now, McNaughton, he started his film career with a small role as the police constable in the 1953 film Laxdale Hall, a British romantic comedy set in a village in the Scottish Highlands. In the same year, he also had a small role in Rob Roy, the Highland Rogue as Callum McGregor. In 1955, McNaughton moved back to London, was cast as Abel Seaman McIntosh in Seagulls over Sorrento, and as Haggis in the 1956 science fiction film X the Unknown. He then appeared in 3 episodes of the British television comedy show Hancock's Half Hour, and had small roles in the films The Silent Enemy and The Safecracker. McNaughton continued to appear in small roles in both television and film throughout 58 and 59, before playing the role of Kilmartin Dalrymple in all 30 episodes of the British sitcom Tell It to the Marines. The comedy revolved around the antics of a tough, boisterous Royal Marine squadron who find themselves billeted with some Royal Navy personnel. Thereafter, he had a succession of small roles, including the television series Silent Evidence in 1962, in which he played the character of Angus McRae. In the same year, he also played the character of Michael George Hartley in Lawrence of Arabia, the masterpiece Lawrence of Arabia from 1962. The director Ian McNaughton actually played a character in that. In 66 and 67, before Flying Circus, he directed all 52 episodes of a BBC series called This Man Craig, which was set in a large, comprehensive school in the fictional Scottish village of Strathaird. The series revolved around the daily life of schoolmaster Ian Craig, who, as one of 6 housemasters, had to keep an eye on the problems of over 300 pupils. Between 67 and 68, he also directed 8 episodes of Dr. Finley's Casebook. The same year of And Now for Something Completely Different, 1971, McNaughton directed the group in the first of 2 German specials filmed in Bavaria called Monty Python's Fliegender Circus. The following year, he directed the 2nd episode of the Python's German specials, another comedy sketch show starring Spike Milligan, and the 3rd series of Monty Python's Flying Circus. Now, after Monty Python, however, he directed a Spike Milligan show called Q, which was commissioned by the BBC called Q6. McNaughton directed Q6 in 75, Q7 in 1977, Q8 in 78, Q9 in 1980. In 76, McNaughton directed another pilot comedy sketch show called Out of the Trees, starring Monty Python alumnus Graham Chapman. But they only filmed one episode. So after Monty Python, he really did not do much. That's the thing, is that in 96, he directed Australian composer George Dreyfus's comedy The Marx Sisters in Bleefield, and 97, Gerard Bauman's Mix in Munich. At the theater and hall near Innsbruck in Austria, he directed plays by Otto Grunmandi. And sadly, he did not die of natural causes either. In 2001, McNaughton suffered extensive injuries in a car accident while returning to his home in Munich, Germany, from the first night of a translation of Alan Ayckbourn's play Season's Greetings in Hall, Austria. He eventually died from these injuries on the 10th of December of 2002. So yeah, he did about 10, 12 films, including an uncredited bit in Lawrence of Arabia. And also, interestingly enough, he also married his second wife when he met his second wife actually when he was in Bavaria making the German episodes of Flying Circus, and got married to her in 1995 and was with her until his death in 2002. Now, Playboy Productions was actually one of the production companies behind this film, this movie. Also with Kettle Drum Films, Lowndes Productions, and Python Monty Pictures, as they like to use later on. Now, let's talk about Victor Lowndes. Okay, now this is the guy that was given the special credit in the beginning. And like I said, this movie was intended to help Monty Python break into the United States. Now, although the film was initially unsuccessful at achieving an American breakthrough, it did financially well in the United Kingdom and later in the United States on the, quote, midnight movie circuit after the Pythons achieved some success there. Following their first exposure on U.S. television and the release of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the group did not consider this film a success, but enjoys a cult following among Python fans today. The film was the idea of entrepreneur Victor Lowndes, the head of the United Kingdom operations of Playboy. He convinced the group that a feature film would be the ideal way to introduce him to the U.S. market. He acted as executive producer. But production on the film, unfortunately, did not go smoothly. Lowndes tried to exert considerably more control over the group than they had been used to at the BBC. In particular, he objected so strongly to one character that his appearance was removed altogether. Stills from both this and a further cut sketch, Flying Sheep, were published in Monty Python's Big Red Book. Terry Jones and Michael Palin later complained that the vast majority of this film was nothing more than, quote, jokes behind desks. Yeah, that was Terry Jones and Michael Palin who dismissed this. So, yeah. Another argument with Lowndes occurred when Terry Gilliam designed the opening credits for the film. Because the names of the Pythons were shown in blocks of stone, Lowndes insisted that his own name be displayed in a similar manner. Initially, Gilliam refused, but eventually he was forced to give in. Gilliam then created a different style of credit for the Pythons so that in the final version of the film, Lowndes' credit is the only one that appears that way. Yeah. So 40% of the film's budget came from Lowndes, and this is self-referentially acknowledged in the film's Killer Cars animation. The voiceover narration done by Eric Idle mentions, quote, a scene of such spectacular proportions that it could never in your life be seen in a low-budget film like this. If you notice, my mouth isn't moving either. The film was shot on location in England and inside an abandoned dairy rather than a more costly soundstage during the final months of 1970. And let's see. Now, Now, okay, we are, yeah, now for something completely different. We are at the 41-minute mark, the 41-minute mark of, and now for something completely different for anybody who wants to join in. Thank you again, everybody, for joining me tonight. Three Blinded White Mice. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, Terry Jones just starts smashing some mice. Why not? Oh, wow. Musical mice. That's what this is. Yeah. Reputedly trained to squeak at specific pitches. Now, I really love the next sketch, which was actually in the very first episode in the very first season of Flying Circus, the one after Musical Mice, called "It's the Arts," where John Cleese's interview. Oh yeah, yeah, John Cleese is interviewing a film director called Sir Edward Ross, played by Graham Chapman, as we see right here. And he increasingly uses inappropriate nicknames like Eddie Baby, Pussycat, Angel Drawers, Uh, Frank, and he uses the name Frank because, quote, President Nixon had a hedgehog named Frank. I mean, some of the humor like that is very, very specific to the 1970s. I mean, I think some people watching this film be like, who the hell is Richard Nixon? Now, see, look how sharp his hair is here in comparison to the one a few scenes ago. I mean, they work a lot with makeup and costumes and everything. I mean, all in support of the comedy, of course. Everyone calls me Ted. Oh, splendid. Graham Chapman's reactions, they completely sell it. But he kind of appears as a typical movie director. Little Look at that jacket and shirt and the mustache. Oh, it's wonderful. Now, in total, there's approximately 45 sketches or scenes in this entire movie. 45 different bits that, like I said, were all basically refilmed from Flying Circus. And I can see some Monty Python fans actually preferring how these skits are executed in this film as opposed to the series. Although, I mean, here again, it should be noted that the budget was so low on this, couldn't even afford the effects from like the series. I mean, but this film doesn't look that low budget, at least with this print that I'm looking at, and I'm watching it on Amazon Prime. Mm. But I can't wait till my favorite bit, which is coming up on number 31 of the 45 bits in this movie. All right, let's see here. Now, the editor on this film, and now for something completely different, the editing is actually done by a man named Thom Noble, who is still with us. And he is a British film editor who won an Academy Award and an Ace Eddie Award for the film Witness, directed by Peter Weir and starring Harrison Ford in 1985. And he was also nominated for the Academy Award and the BAFTA for Best Editing for Thelma and Louise in 1991, directed by Ridley Scott. And in 2018, he was on the jury for the Mumbai International Film Festival, and he started editing in the 1960s. He edited Fahrenheit 451 in 1966. He also edited one of my favorites, Wake in Fright, directed by Ted Kotcheff, which is actually one of the very first major Australian films to make a splash around the world. And he served as a post-production coordinator on that film, Wake in Fright. And see what else. He was also a visual consultant for First Blood. The director of Wake in Fright, Ted Kotcheff, also brought him back for North Dallas 40, Split Image, and First Blood. But he also edited Red Dawn for John Milius, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side for Brian Gibson, The Mosquito Coast, one of Peter Weir's best films, Switching Channels, Mountains of the Moon. He also served as an uncredited editor on The Exorcist 3. Oh, wow. So Thelma and Louise, Final Analysis, Body of Evidence, Hudsucker Proxy, Color of Night, Trial by Jury, Feeling Minnesota, The Mask of Zorro, Vertical Limit, Inspector Gadget, Reign of Fire, Passengers, Alex Cross, the 2015 version of Point Break. And his last film was in 2020, and that was a film he edited called Guilty. Follows the story of a songwriter whose boyfriend is accused of rape during the era of Me Too. It was the first production venture of Dharmatic, the digital arm of Karan Johar's Dharma Productions. It was released on Netflix. So he's still alive and still working. Wow. There's Carol Cleveland again. Yeah. These little interludes. And not all of it's animation. Here we have like a new Winston Churchill. I'm actually related to Winston Churchill, believe it or not. My family used to call him Cousin Winnie. True story. Yeah, I'm actually related to the guy. So we are coming up on the 49-minute mark. The 49-minute mark of And Now for Something Completely Different. And we have reached... Oh yeah, the extension of the funniest joke in the world. Basically a joke that will make you laugh so hard you will die. Now it's funny because remember this was written in the early 1970s. Okay, now John Cleese and Michael Palin both are part of the Monty Python troupe, and they were obviously involved in all the writing of these sketches and everything. A Fish Called Wanda, which was released in 1988, was written by John Cleese and also starred Michael Palin and John Cleese in roles, along with Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Kline, who won an Academy Award. Fish Called Wanda is one of my favorite comedies. I think it's one of the funniest movies ever made. It actually made somebody laugh himself to death. That is actually very true. During the initial run of the film, a Danish audiologist named Ole Benson died while laughing during a screening, which led newspapers to report that he had died from laughter. The official cause of death was heart fibrillation, which may have been caused by an increased heart rate due to extended laughter. Cleese considered using the event for publicity, but ultimately decided as it was in too bad taste. But then again, a lot of Fish Called Wanda is in bad taste anyway. Yeah, so this whole joke right here, the funniest joke in the world, which will, quote unquote, make you laugh yourself to death, that's A Fish Called Wanda. Literally, that's A Fish Called Wanda right there. This reminds me of the war sequences, the Zulu sequences and the war sequences from the Meaning of Life, which they did years later. Yeah, Meaning of Life is definitely, in my opinion, the most underrated of all the. Curiously underrated, though. I don't know why it's never mentioned in the same breath as Life of Brian or Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but I adore Meaning of Life. Like I said, along with A Fish Called Wanda, it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. And that New Year's Eve screening in 1993 was everything. It really was. Over 80,000 times as powerful as Britain's great pre-war joke. Oh, man. And here, finally, we get some more of Terry Gilliam's lovely, lovely animation. I love every animated bit in this movie. Just look at all this. This is just wonderful. I should talk a little bit more about Terry Gilliam's animation. So quick here. Here we go. In November of 2020, Terry Gilliam reveals the secrets of Monty Python's animations with a 1974 how-to guide. For Monty Python's Flying Circus, he created some of the most memorable moments of a show chock full of memorable moments, a pram that devours old ladies, a massive cat that menaces London, which we will see here in a bit, and a mustached police officer who pulls open his shirt to reveal the chest of a shapely woman. He also created the show's most iconic image, that giant foot during the title sequence. On Bob Godfrey's series Do-It-Yourself film animation show, Gilliam delved into the nuts and bolts of his technique. You can watch it at Open Culture, the Open Culture website. Along the way, he sums up his thoughts on the medium. The whole point of animation to me is to tell a story, make a joke, express an idea. The technique itself doesn't really matter. Whatever works is the thing to use. That's why I use cutout. It's the easiest form of animation I know. He also notes that the key to cutout animation is to know its limitations. Graceful, elegant movement a la Walt Disney is damn near impossible. Swift, sudden movements, on the other hand, are much simpler. That's why there are far more beheadings in his segments than ballroom dancing. Watch the whole clip. If you are a hardcore Python enthusiast, it's a pleasure to watch him work. Oh, wow. the Siamese cat and the other animals in there. Oh God, it's like this stuff is just so bizarre. I mean, I still can't believe somebody actually thought of all this. It's just so weird. That hand has appeared numerous times, and it's funny every single time. Oh, that is so bizarre. But that was a pretty cool transition, though, I have to admit. That was actually a really cool transition. Now, this was the scene I was watching earlier when I saw this movie again that made me think of A Fish Called Wanda. Just their characters that they play in the actually also Fierce Creatures, because they're going to talk about the lion. Oh my God, the parrot sketch. No. Oh, no. I'm sorry. The poor parrot. Oh. Like, how long can you hold the parrot in front of the camera? Oh man, just awesome, awesome. The dead parrot. But of course, this is going to transition into my all-time favorite Monty Python bit, which is, of course, the legendary Lumberjack song by Michael Palin, which I've listened to many, many times. The first time I actually heard it was actually on uh, Monty Python Live at the Hollywood Bowl. Oh, God. Oh, the poor. I mean, it's fake, obviously, but I mean, just seeing a parrot being, thrown around like that. I mean, it's just great. Oh yeah, but it's the sketch a little bit later where he's an accountant, but he dreams of being like a lion tamer, and it made me think of Fierce Creatures, which was the follow up to A Fish Called Wanda, where it's set in a British zoo, where John Cleese wants to bring in basically fierce animals to replace all the cute and cuddly ones because they're very very desperate to bring in business. So what if we bring the most vicious animals on the planet to this zoo? Look here, Mike. This parrot wouldn't boom you if we put 4,000 volts through it. It's bleeding demised. I mean, just all the movements they're making. I mean, really. I mean, this is all an art form right here. It's run down the curtain. An ex parrot. Yeah. Oh, I don't think I noticed the see-through smock that John Cleese was wearing before. Now, of course, we're going to see him a bit later on a table in pink underwear. Well, it's scarcely a replacement then. I didn't want to work in a pet shop. I wanted to be a lumberjack. Sorry, this is irrelevant. And so we go into the lumberjack song. This may be the most famous Monty Python bit. It may be so, maybe so. Oh no, the rabbit that eats people in Holy Grail, or rather the Black Knights sequence. It's just a flesh wound. That might be a tad more recognizable, but and now I believe. Okay, now here on screen is Connie Booth. This is Connie Booth, who was married to John Cleese at the time. So even though she does mostly vocal voice work in other skets and segments throughout, this is her appearing on screen with Michael Palin, even though she's married to John Cleese, who is there with the rest of the guys singing. And yeah, Terry Gilliam's there too. Eric Idle. I like to. I put on women's clothing and hang around in bars. Well, that's news to his wife right there. It's news to Connie Booth. And eventually they pelt him with rotten fruit, which of course goes back to self-defense against fresh fruits segment. I mean, there's a lot of callbacks, a lot of jumping around. Like, hey, you remember this gag? Oh yeah, we're referencing that too. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's just basically a weird, amalgam of, flying circus stuff. But like I said, I think the animation and the transitions are funny. I think the animation is brilliant in this in particular. And now for something completely different. How many times does he say that in the movie? Like maybe 6 or 7? Yeah, something like that. Well, in the show, they also use that quote, and now for something completely different. Now, this segment is one of my less favorite ones. I mean, it goes on a little too far, and as Graham Chapman himself would say, it's just a bit too silly. It's just they really drag this dirty fork joke out far beyond, I think. I wish they kind of actually trimmed this bit a little bit and put something else in. But and there's Carol Cleveland again, a very beautiful Carol Cleveland. And she's still with us. She is 80 years old. And let's see. She appeared in 30 of the 45 episodes and all 4 Monty Python movies. She also contributed to many post-Python projects, including Concert for George, Not the Messiah, He's a Very Naughty Boy. And she also appeared in many documentaries about the group's history, including Monty Python, Almost the Truth, The Lawyer's Cut. And she was also voted number 3 in Splendor magazine's 100 Most Beautiful Entertainers list in 1972. Well, how about that? So, yeah, Carol Cleveland. In 1986, she played an American television journalist in Only Fools and Horses in the episode The Miracle of Peckham. And then in 1995, Cleveland had a small cameo in a sketch within Fist of Fun, a BBC comedy show featuring Stuart Lee and Richard Herring. In 2022, Cleveland appeared on an episode of First Dates, which is a British reality program. So I don't watch reality shows. Now, she had actually appeared in more films than all the other Pythons before, and now for something completely different, because she was also in the Americanization of Emily with Julie Andrews, the Charlie Chaplin film A Countess from Hong Kong. She played a nurse in Charlie Chaplin's last movie. Wow. I've always liked the title of this movie, even though I've never seen it. If it's Tuesday, this must be Belgium. I've never seen it. It's like that one title I've always seen. Oh, no sex, please. We're British. Okay. And she was also in The Return of the Pink Panther as a swimming pool diver. Now, all of you, including Monty Python fans, will, of course, know her as Zoot and Dingo in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where she presides over the Castle Anthrax, which has a bunch of women between 16 and 19 and a half. And, of course, they try to seduce Michael Palin, an injured Knights of the Round Table. And she was also in Mrs. Gregory and Life of Brian, and of course had various roles in The Meaning of Life. She also starred in the movie Annie, A Royal Adventure. And, but like I said, she just did a reality show this year, so she's still working. Oh, she actually had she played a lady customer in an episode of Are You Being Served, which I mentioned earlier is my favorite British sitcom. So yeah, Carol Cleveland, absolutely gorgeous woman, and in many ways, definitely the 7th Monty Python member. I think she does deserve that unofficial distinction. I mean, that's the thing. This is one of the longer segments, and I think it just goes on a little too long. Even though Cleese is, a trip as always. Now, okay, so we are at the 1 hour, 6 minute mark, 1 hour and 6 minutes, and we have approximately 22 minutes left to go in, and now for something completely different. Oh, he's dead. Yeah, so the dirty fork. Yeah, that's from season 1, episode 3. Luckily, I didn't tell them about the dirty knife. And now the punchline. Exactly. And now a musical interlude. Yes. Picture of Rodin's The Kiss with the addition of several small holes along the woman's leg. And the woman straightens her leg out, and the man plays her like an ocarina. Remember in Monty Python's The Meaning of Life, where John Cleese is having sex with his wife in front of the class, the sex education class, and he's like adjusting inside, himself inside his wife. There we are. Oh, that's better. And then he says to Michael Palin, "Hey Carter, what is it?" "It's my ocarina, sir." "Bring it up here." Here's John Cleese. Apparently so stupid to not realize that in a lingerie shop they don't have a lot of cash. They have a lot of bras and knickers and corsets and suspender belts and petticoats and socks and garters. That kind of thing. No large quantities of money in sales. Oh no, sir. We're not Victoria's Secret. Fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is from season 1, episode 10. Robert is somewhat put out by his error, makes do with a pair of panties. And now for something completely different. That must have been fun to shoot. Can you imagine them shooting that? Oh, yeah. People falling out of high buildings. Yeah, this is from episode 12 of season 1. I have worked in tall buildings all my life and have never once. I know I'm giving away the punchline, but see here again. I mean, with these commentaries, kind of expect you to actually see the movie first. Oh no, another one. I'll bet you £5 it's this guy next that falls down. Oh, so he did notice the guys falling out outside the window. Oh, wonderful. Oh, Fiverr. Yeah. You're on. Yeah, do that. And of course, one of them is telling them to jump. One of them is being like, no, don't be stupid. You don't have to jump. Just to get that fiber. But the punchline, of course, is Graham Chapman actually writing this letter. And he actually falls out of a tall building. Oh. And some more awesome Terry Gilliam animation. Now, I remember this surprised me the first time I saw it. Like, okay, what the hell is this? This is like a caterpillar with clothes on. What the hell? Although it doesn't look like a caterpillar, of course. But so you notice how that door just like opened up and just instantly. Like I mean, a millisecond it took to open the door. And the next morning, a awesome 1970s hippie butterfly or whatever. That's definitely a 1970s butterfly right there. The three people, exclusive to this film. Three people walk in snow and then one at a time sing the title of the next sketch in harmony. And this is Terry Jones, Michael Palin, and John Cleese doing all this voice work right here. And now we come up to the sketch, The Vocational Guidance Counselor, with Michael Palin. This is from episode 10 of the first season. And this was the one I mentioned earlier where I immediately thought of Fierce Creatures when I was watching this bit again because of, Michael Palin and John Cleese, working together in that, as well as A Fish Called Wanda, and how, he wants to get all these vicious creatures. And of course, he talks about going from accounting to being a lion tamer. But still, it's not quite as prophetic as the joke, the funniest joke in the world that makes you die laughing. As I mentioned, the guy in Europe who supposedly died while laughing while watching Fish Called Wanda. I always love it when the Python gang wears glasses too. It always adds a little bit extra. Just adds a little bit extra. Oh, Mr. Anchovy. Yeah, he's called Mr. Anchovy. Why, I don't really know. Oh, the animal he thinks is a lion is in fact an anteater, and stock footage of a lion scares the life out of him. I'm only as awful. Oh, a lion tamer. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. Okay, well, uh, of course, it's a bit of a jump. Accountancy to lion taming. Just to let everybody know, we are now at the 1 hour, 14-minute mark, 1 hour and 14 minutes, and we have approximately 14 minutes left to go. Yeah, like I said, this movie is almost like over before you know it. I mean, it's 88 minutes, and it actually feels a lot shorter than that, weirdly enough. Even though the irony is I just stated one of the sketches went on a bit too long. This one is kind of stretched out, it feels, too. But like I said, I mean, I virtually laugh at almost everything in this movie. Almost everything. Does he have his own hat? It's like in Meaning of Life, what was that about hats? Oh, yeah, people aren't wearing enough of them. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got to work on that. Michael Palin. Michael Palin is now 79, and he's now Sir Michael Palin. John Cleese is 82 now. Yeah, Terry Gilliam is still with us. Eric Idle is still with us. And John Cleese is still with us. And Eric Idle. So, yeah, Graham Chapman and Terry Jones are gone, but we still got 4 Monty Pythoners left. Oh, God. It also makes me think of Meaning of Life where Eric Idle and Michael Palin are in this tiger suit, and they're trying to make up an excuse of, oh, yeah, we didn't take this guy's leg from a Zulu camp, No, we are dressed as a tiger because he had an aunt who did it in 1839, and this is the 15th anniversary. It doesn't matter why they're dressed as a tiger. Have they got my leg? Good thinking. Breaking the fourth wall. There you go. Like, oh God, Eric Idle in drag there. Oh, it's just genius. Herbert Anchovy. Now, how would you like to wear a suit like that? Look at that bow tie. Good Lord. How much more loud can you get? Good evening and welcome to Blackmail. Yes, this is from season 2, episode 5. And, Terry Jones makes his debut here as the nude organist after Terry Gilliam had previously performed the role on the television show. Oh, wow. Oh, God. And you thought John Cleese in a pink bra and underwear was was amazing to see, but wait till you see Terry Jones completely naked, nude here. I keep thinking of Three's Company when I try to distinguish between naked and nude. You know, because John Ritter, he almost gets a job as a porn actor. And the director is like, no, we say nude. Naked is dirty, but nude is art. That's what I make, art. It's like it's the same thing, doofus. The victim may phone me at any time and stop the film. So yeah, the idea is that people actually call in to pay blackmails. They don't get a reward. They got to pay something to prevent something from happening. Oh yeah, look at this go up. 300 pounds, 600 pounds. Oh yeah, sensitive information dealing with their sex lives unless they pay him increasingly large sums of money. And he carries on this duty with enthusiasm and panache. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is the 41st sketch or bit in this movie, and there's only 4 left. We only got 4 left coming. The Battle of Pearl Harbor, Romantic Interlude, Upper Class Twit of the Year, and then finally the end titles, which are also animation. £3,600. Wow. Oh, God. Look at those gold phones. God. Behind the hot water pipe's third washer. Oh, no. There you are. Well, that's quite enough of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now, yeah. Local civic group reenacts a famous scene from history. And yes, the town's yeah, the Battle of Pearl Harbor, where he introduces a group of women who are members of the Batley's Towns Women's Guild. All the pythons here in drag. This is a rare opportunity to see all 6 pythons on screen, and they're all in drag. Thank you very much indeed, young man. Yeah, that's all 6 of them. Not a lot of points in these films do you see all 6 of them on screen, but there you are. And now a romantic interlude. Yes. Of course, probably about this time, everybody in the theaters, like, yeah, I just want to go home and have sex now. You know, this movie got my partner to laugh enough. Now's the time for sex. Oh, Carol Cleveland, man, yeah, she was indeed a very beautiful woman. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, a bunch of cock and erection jokes. I remember they reused some of the stuff in like the Naked Gun 2.5. There's actually an entire sequence where Leslie Nielsen is having sex with uh, um, why is her name? Priscilla Presley, who was married to Elvis, and of course, a lot of these images were saying, "Oh yeah, erection, erection, erection." You know, instead of actually seeing the actual erection, we saw an image which gave us enough of an idea, like somebody buying a hot dog in New York City, that kind of thing. And here's the last of the official sketches, which is the upper class twit of the year. 5 mentally deficient members of the landed gentry go through a challenging obstacle course with such events as walking along a straight line, jumping over a wall made of 2 rows of matchboxes, and slamming a car door loudly. The winner will be the first competitor to shoot himself in the head. In the process, one twit is so inept that while attempting to back up a car, he somehow manages to run himself over. Oh, mess. He's thought by many to be a year's most outstanding twit. Oh, man. See, I can see the Jackass guys actually doing stuff like this. It's a little bit similar. Mm. Yeah, like I said, a good hour of laughs, and then it kind of drags just a tiny, tiny bit near the end. How's that for an assessment? You know. And like I said, I mean, if you're a Monty Python fan, I think you do need to have this film in your collection. But if you've never seen Monty Python, go check out Holy Grail, and then check out Flying Circus, and then you can check out the other movies from there. Will probably be the most appropriate path to take if you're going to uh, get the full Monty Python experience. He hasn't cleared the jump. Ugh. Oh, this must have been so much fun to shoot. Right in the midriff. And he doesn't know he's winning either. See, look at this. I mean, this is all great, great stuff. And the crowd is really excited, and now it's shooting the rabbits. It's funny because in 1972 we actually had a horror movie called Night of the Lepus, which I will be doing a commentary on next month, which is basically about a bunch of rabbits that attack the countryside, and it has Bones from Star Trek. Yeah. Now this stuff, yeah, whatever. Oh, look! Oh, you think those are stock shots? Yeah, I think those are stock shots. Oh no! And the final event, they have to shoot themselves. I would have ended with the Lumberjack song. I would have ended up, yeah, I would have ended with like a musical number instead of this. I'm not sure if they put this near the end because it's one of the longer sketches. And Nigel clubs himself to death. Oh, yeah. Upper class twit of the year. Yeah. Yeah. And now for something completely different. Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, Michael Palin, and Carol Cleveland and Connie Booth. Oh, yeah. Bravo to them all. Bravo to them all. And Terry Gilliam's animation was the right way to end this movie, I think. I like these credits. Art direction by Colin Grimes. Now, I wonder what Americans would have thought of this film in 72. I really do wonder if they actually laughed or they just thought that this was a bunch of weird, random shit. Film editor Thom Noble, who I talked about before, and animations by Terry Gilliam. Yes, the great Terry Gilliam. Screen foreplay and conception. And here we have the babies. I'm not sure if that was actually real pictures of them as babies, or probably not. Probably not. Produced by Patricia Casey and directed by, I actually love this final gag right here. Look at his eyes. Look at his eyes looking around like that. Directed by Ian McNaughton. And then we get the end credit again. So that's Monty Python's and now for something completely different. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. Oh, I forgot to mention John S. I saw this in LA at a midnight showing in 1983. I wanted to see Rocky Horror. Went along with the crowd. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Well, tell you what, everybody, I don't know exactly what my next commentary will be yet, but I know that we're going to stay in the United Kingdom. I do know that we're going to stay in the United Kingdom. And Tuesday at 1 a.m., I will be doing the Pied Piper, based on the famous story of, the guy that gets the rats out of this village during the plague. So that will be next week, Tuesday at 1 a.m. Eastern Time. And look out on Twitter for any other announcements. But like I said, all international films from 1972 this year. And I kicked it off with, and now for something completely different. Well, anyway, thank you all for joining in. And you all have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend.